Guys, welcome to Team Talk. Thank you very much for joining us. We have Rhoda Mulaudzi, the first ever SAFJA Women's Footballer of the Year. Whoop whoop. And then we have Lethabo Ramalepe. She's also a teammate of Rhoda's at Belarusian side. We'll get to the pronunciation of the name of the team later. And then we have Busisiwe Mokwena. She is the Deputy Chairperson of SAFJA and also a trailblazer in women's sport issues, and also Mosibudi Whitehead, the Secretary General of the South African Football Journalists Association. I'll start with you, Musi. Just give us a little bit of background about who is SAFJA and what is SAFJA all about.
Thank you, Lethabo. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for inviting me to speak a little bit about SAFJA. SAFJA, the South African Football Journalists Association, is a group of over 100 now football journalists representing some of the most prominent media houses in the country. I beg your pardon. Our membership consists of the most experienced, some juniors, and people that have been working the football beat for decades now. We came into being because it initially started as the vision of our chairperson, Velile Mnyandu. We met some years ago. Initially, there were some groups of journalists, senior journalists, who were trying to get this sort of movement off the ground to address common issues facing football journalists in this space. For a number of reasons, those 2 or 3 attempts never bore any fruit. But Velile never gave up on this idea of an organization to represent us. So what then happened was that it just became a WhatsApp group where we would discuss common issues. So, for example, there's an issue at a particular club where maybe certain members were victimized or were treated badly by a coach or a club official. We would then take these matters up to the PSL and say, PSL, what can you do about it, if anything? So it just started like that. Sometimes a coach loses a match, is in a bad mood, doesn't attend the post-match press conference, or does and treats people badly. That's something that we could take to the PSL. And then it even grew to other issues. For example, maybe the ablution facilities or the toilets weren't in a good condition, especially for some of our female members, and we would take some of these matters up. That's how it started. And then we realized that we needed to formalize this so that we could run several programs which we had wished to run. For example, mentoring young journalists. And so we were fortunate that the lockdown happened. For many in the sports industry, it was bad. But for us, we used this time to elect office bearers, to get our constitution done, to get new members to join. And from May, where we started with 23 members on that WhatsApp group, to now, the first week of September, we have over 100. And we've been able also to have the inaugural SAFJA Women's Footballer of the Season award. That was one of the most important things that we wanted to do even before SAFJA was formed. We would always speak with Velile. We were some of the fortunate ones, myself, Velile, Mazola Molefe, Mark Stradom, and others who have traveled the continent in particular with football. And we said this is an opportunity that really should be available to a lot more of our journalists. Media houses, the budgets are getting smaller, things are getting tougher, and yet they're still expected to deliver quality content. We can't report on women's football as much as we'd like to. Why? Because your editor says, no, I've only got space for one PSL story. We've got to have rugby, cricket, and whatever else. So we said, no, once we have something, then we can provide the opportunity for young journalists to travel. We can have mentorship programs, and we can also plug the gaps where we see them. One of those gaps was women's football. And luckily, we were able to find a sponsor, thanks to the hard work of Velile Mnyandu, Hollywood Bets, who came on and said, we love this cause, we'd like to support it. And we've had the first SAFJA Women's Footballer of the Season award, Rhoda Mulaudzi having won it hands down. And what was also nice about that award is that it involved the coaches of the clubs in the SAFA National Women's League. So it shows that it's something that was loved by the industry, and even SAFA have commented about it. And that's what we are hoping to achieve with this organization, to contribute positively to football. And I'm glad that we are here 4 months later.
Lucy, how important is this award for someone that's covered women's football in South Africa and on the continent, and also it's not just only a first of its own just here locally in terms of journalists honoring footballers, but also you look at other, say, not confederations, what's the word, other regions, that we know that COSAFA always excels in terms of, prioritizing smaller groups. You'll have under 17 girls, you'll have under 17 boys. How crucial and how important is it to have this award?
For me, I think the most important thing for this award is the financial reward. That's the most important thing. Simply because I haven't covered women's football as extensively as yourself or as Busisiwe, but I would always cover it through people like you. I mean, when I was working as a radio presenter, I would always interview Busi, going back, 10 years, to ask her what's happening in women's football. And time and again, you'd face the same challenge. Referee doesn't come to the match. Referee's late. You start 15 minutes late. Hey, people don't respect the game because a lot of the times they're not getting paid. And it's a testament to the hard work that these women have put in, that they've been able to qualify for 2 consecutive Olympic Games, a World Cup, have won the COSAFA through these difficult times where they're getting 500 Rand stipend or even less at times. So for me, the most important thing about this award is that, having sat in some of these sponsorship meetings, the question is always said, oh, but what about return on investment? There is this myth out there that women's sport has no return on investment or very little. What we've shown with this award, because the amount of traction that this got on social media, on television, on radio, shows for Hollywood Bets, they're very happy, but it would show other sponsors that if you put money into women's football or women's sport, you do get a return on your investment. And that has always been the argument and the stumbling block. So now that there's money, hopefully this will lead to a growth in sponsorship revenues coming into women's football, because they can see that South African women's football, with all the players playing overseas now, Rhoda, Fifi, Jane, and others, it will show that this is a sport where someone can get value by putting their money into it.
Just briefly, what Mosibudi mentioned about players in the country not earning a salary or even a stipend, by playing football. It was really important for us as SAFJA to have a monetary reward. And we're really grateful when Hollywood Bets came on board and actually, gave us money, to give to the women's footballer of the season. I think it's with the traction that this award received, not only just in South Africa, but in other countries as well. Zimbabwe, Uganda, Cameroon, Botswana, so many other countries were talking about it. That South African football journalists are rewarding a woman football player, and this women's football player is getting money. The issue of non-professional football is not only a South African problem, so it's a continental problem. This is why the other journalists and other countries were speaking about this, because they see that South African football journalists are trying to make a positive change, in supporting women's football in general, but also the growth of the sport in the country. It was really important for us to not only just give a pat on the back to the football of the season, but also give them, money to say, hey, go enjoy yourself. We know this is not a usual occurrence, but also it's a motivation for the other players from the other teams, because now they see that, okay, although maybe the mother body is not putting in as much as everyone would like, but then there are other people from outside who are watching in who want to contribute, positively to women's football in the country. So yeah, I think that's the main reason why we had to have this award. And also, thankfully to Hollywood Bet, we're able to have money to give to the best player of the season. Yeah, just to grow the sport, just to encourage the players to know that we know that it's really, really hard. I've covered women's football for over 10 years now. Over the 10 years, I've seen how hard it is for players to continue committing themselves to the sport, but we just wanted to say, just hang in there. It will change soon.
To the best SAFJA women's footballer of the season. Congratulations again, Rhoda. So from the two of you, how has it been where you are? Because obviously we know you received your award virtually, albeit your manager being at the ceremony, receiving the actual trophy for you and the check. How has it been for you there? Like, has there been as much excitement as there has been here at home as there's been in Belarus, Rhoda?
Thank you. Thank you, Lethabo. Firstly, I would love to thank SAFJA and the Hollywood Bet. Yeah, the only problem is the teammates, they're excited. When it comes to language, Brenda shall tell the translator that we say congratulations. So anyway, they can show with the emotions that they're happy. They saw it because it was all over the internet. Even saw it on their the team's page on Instagram that were congratulating him. So I was happy about it.
As for me, like I was so happy for my friend here. I was like, you know what, my friend, like I don't want to lie to you. And then I was like, you know what, 1 award. Understand? So I'm so happy about the SAFJA, the way we're relaying the whole thing, already possible for women footballers in South Africa since Restragela as a whole. So I'm very much grateful, and what I want to say is, God, no, let's go from now on, continue doing the great thing for women footballers back home.
But then also the award came literally a day after you and the team had won the Belarusian Cup as well. So was that like, what kind of fun was that? Like moving from one tonight, one tomorrow in two different countries. How fun was it for you, Rhoda?
It was very funny, exciting. You know, like, okay, fine. Last night we won the Belarusian Cup. And then today I'm being awarded South African Sportswoman of the Year. And then on the other side, it's a matter of me winning, us as a team, Sanders winning the National League. So now we're winning the Belarusian League, and then now's the award. It means a lot to me. This year, let's say, yeah, this year was my year in a way that I never saw it coming. So it comes as a surprise. It comes as a shock that that's what is happening, because to us it was just a matter of, okay, we won the league, so what's next? Okay, fine, I find myself in Belarus now, and then the rest of the team will continue with the journey. But the award itself, it came as a shock, to be honest. I was not even aware until when I saw it on social media, and also my manager telling me that, hey, you're nominated. I said, wow, I didn't see this one coming. So that's what I'm saying to our South African journalists. We thank you for what they are doing for women's football, because normally we have that negative attitude towards the journalists, thinking that they always report negative things against us. If let's say we have true story, they'll come running, okay, tell us what's happening, when did you guys get paid? That's what most of the time we think of. But them coming this, wow, I salute them. I respect them in a way that, you know what they're doing for women's football is great, it's big, because things like this, we're expecting them from the motherboard. But anyway, yeah, I'm so excited about it.
Mosibudi and Busisiwe, I'm coming to you. Obviously, with SAFJA, definitely a relations issue was one of the things that you wanted to achieve as an association, have better relations, journalists and other stakeholders, you know, as well. But then the issue that, you know, even with the league that just concluded as well, there wasn't as much coverage. Is SAFJA also looking to address that, perhaps call it the attitude of the media towards women's football?
Sometimes it's that when you are maybe watching a certain television station or listening to a certain station in a FM or whatsoever, and then every time when we are listening to the sports headlines, it's always male results. And then only to find out it's Monday morning, we had fixtures whereby National League was playing or Sasso League was playing, but you won't hear them mentioning the results of the women's league. And then I tend to ask myself, why is it like, why even it won't even take them maybe a minute just to say, okay, Mamelodi Sundowns played, you'll see they played Celtics, this is how the result was. So we just need that small and I think can also try to push the women's football going forward so that people can more they can know more about women's football, just only our family members and friends who know our women's football. But if they start now to talk more about it, to celebrate it more, then it's when maybe it's gonna also give the motherboard the pressure that, you know what, it seems like we are the one that are leaking, but people now are well educated about the women's football. So it's something that I think it should be done starting from now. It breaks my heart, especially when you see maybe here the presenter, maybe it's a woman, and then always they are covering men's sports. You tend to ask yourself when, and also sometimes even if when they are covering the women's side, or let's say it's a live game, and then you end up hearing now they're now talking about ESL, but it's a match between Mamelodi Sundowns and UWC or the Ladies and Chichi, and then maybe they will just talk less or maybe 2 minutes about women's football. From then they're now starting talking about PSL, which I believe somehow it's not fair enough.
Yeah, I think Rhoda's right. What this award has done, what I've seen, and you were involved in the voting process, is that a lot more people now are interested in covering women's football going forward, because many admitted when we said people were looking for those who've covered it closely, because we want to make sure that this award is given to the correct person. And many said, you know what, I only went to 1 or 2 games. Some said, no, I only went to 1 or 2 games. Some said, next season I need to attend more games. So what this award has done, is that it has stimulated interest in women's football. And I anticipate that certainly for the members of the South African Football Journalists Association, in the second season of the SAFJA National Women's League and even the Sasso League, I anticipate that we're going to get more journalists going out there to cover the game. It's also an intimidation thing, you know, Lethabo, because people are afraid to admit that they don't know much about women's football. Mm-hmm. Men's football is a bit different. You grow up, it's been on TV since the 80s, the late 70s. So when you're growing up, it's there. You've been going with your uncle or your father or whomever, Lea Stadium. It's been part of culture. But in women's football, it is still fairly new in the sense that it was only around the year 2000 when we hosted that women's AFCON here in Vosloorus that really people said, whoa, there's Banyana Banyana. That was Desiree Ellis, Joanne Solomon, Veronica Pewa, a young Posha Modise. So you compare that to men's football, which has been going on for decades. And that's the difference. So people feel intimidated by people, I mean journalists, to say, yo, if I say I don't know about women's football, but you know, kind of thing. So people rather keep quiet and ignore it. I was fortunate in that I worked for a radio station where we had majority female listeners. And when I was told that you need to cover a lot of women's sport. So I had to go into the deep end in terms of women's football. And I learned by learning from other journalists who know, like Busisiwe Mokwena here. And also once you interview someone who puts you in touch with the next person, you meet the next person. Even the federation was very helpful back then. Someone like Mahlumela Marake, 10 years back. So this award has stimulated interest, but also it's allowed people to come forward and know that they won't be judged if they make a mistake. For example, when the stories were being written about this award, you even know, clarify this for me, can you clarify this for me? Now they're writing articles, right? They're writing articles based on the fact that we had this event to hand over the award. But the person maybe had been kind of following the National Women's League, but not closely. Now they are. So next season, I think we will have a lot more coverage, and hopefully that will drive more interest in the women's game in general, in the general public, and we'll start to see some of what Rhoda is hoping for. It reminds me of when we were working together, and I was lucky enough to be an editor. And Busi said, "Hey, PSL, Coal City Wizards and all of that." Anyway, she persisted, and we had this feature that used to run every Wednesday on women's football. And I went out all the way to, I think I went to Middleburg. No, I went to Witbank. I went to Witbank to cover an event. And there happened to be a women's football game as the curtain raiser there with Bo Mandla Masang, when everything was like a Legends game, but the curtain raiser was interviews. I interviewed some of the players. And out of interviewing those players, I then ran the story on Wednesday. But I didn't tell Busisiwe, hey, can I surprise? I've got a good story. I put the story on air, and after putting the story on air, she was the one who said, where did you get that? I think so.
I think it was Elson Machila, a former Banyana player as well.
Yes. And so we put that story on air, and people love that story. And I never thought, that's when I realized, as you're saying, better reports of interest, A, but B, that it also made my life easier when it came to Banyana and others, because now it helped me with my credibility. People could see that, no, he's not only covering Banyana, he's covering some of I was just presenting. But people said, I know this person knows their business. So it's true that if we go down to the ground and cover that, it will make a difference in how women's football is perceived. I think it's also an issue, especially with young journalists coming in, to give them opportunities to go and cover Sasol, to go and cover the women's league right at the bottom, even before we get to Banyana, because that's going to improve the quality and lift the profile of the game, which will ultimately drive investment into the game. So it really does start there at a grassroots level.
My thought is maybe they could not be focused on the national team, because it seems like most of the time the stories that we get about the national teams. So I think if they can also able to even those young players that we don't know, and like sometimes it seems like they focus more on interviewing certain players in a way that we feel other players are not being promoted more, or they're not known well. Because even if you can check in the national team too, they only know few players. And then the rest of the players, some players will play, you play with 7 players and maybe 3 start. So if maybe they can start also and start to let people know about also certain players, then it will be nice, and it will also help the players to grow, and the league itself to the women's football to grow.
Actually, I have this question about junior football for women. What can we do to make it, to improve the quality of the league by investing in the juniors? What should be done? Because I remember back then we would go and cover Sasol. Hey, Sundowns, they were 13 the teams from the Northern Cape and all of that, because the gap was quite large for the other province. In your opinion, both of you, Rhoda Lebogang, what can we do in terms of investing in junior girls football? I'm talking about maybe to improve the quality of the league and ultimately the national team.
My thinking, what needs to be done, even if even small games, like you don't have to focus on the game. Maybe let's say it's my Indies playing against a small team whereby, like, we're gonna hammer them 15 or 20. So sometimes number 15 and 16 in the league are playing against each other. Let's just go there and watch their game. Maybe, for instance, and do interviews with it so that they familiarize themselves. They must know after the games, when they interview, that now you're gonna focus on my Indies, and there's Ramalepe in my Indies. And then you're going to do an interview now only. So it has to be, they must also cover in other players. So the day, maybe, let's say, for instance, they'll be called in the national team. You find them, they will be like, I remember you. I once did an interview with you. So, like, what's your intake now about future? So I think it's global sharp like that. It's kind of a main focus on big names, but their platform where, like, they'll be known going forward. All the time when they shine, already, you once worked with them and you are well known about their ground and everything.
Can Rhoda also share her thoughts on how can South Africa better girls football to make it stronger, so that when they start playing in leagues like the SAFJA National League, you don't see 25 nils and what? I
think we should also go back to schools league, in a way that now the tenders whereby people are being employed by certain foundations, where they go to schools and coach young, and like the JVW girls. If we can start using that route whereby we start developing the young ones while early, unlike waiting for them to reach the age of 17, 20, and then it's when we start thinking of developing them. So, and also we also think that are playing in the national league, which I believe that there are young ones in their teams who are playing football, who wants to play football. Even we can have that in a team, I think that all can help, unlike waiting for them to grow and then so we can say, okay, let them start playing, so that it can also help also in the national level and also internal level. Because if you check with us, yes, we are good when it comes to playing and whatsoever, but when it comes to technique and things like that, I think we're still far, in a way that when you check internationally, the guys are good with technique, the young ones are good with technique, because they have patience and they have time for the young ones. So can pace, which is, I believe it's not good enough. Let's teach the young ones how to play, let's teach them how to trap and play. Everything needs to be done. But also we can't blame the team that, because remember, we don't have enough time, we only have limited time. You come from school, you must go train, you're coming from work, you go train, and by that time it's late already. You also think of going back home because we're not working, you're still using a taxi. So I think it also goes back to a matter of, can we just at least have a profit? We only get salary from playing football, play and then go to work. And then the young one also, when we have academies, it will also help the young ones to grow.
Question here for Lebu, saying, did you expect to win anything in your first season abroad?
To be honest, I don't want to lie. I wasn't expecting it, because normally back home when we play a season, so we just play leagues. There's no cup matches along the season. So for me, cup matches along the season. So yeah, it just surprised me. I was like, I got here, they were playing semis, so I did that game. It was my first match, and then I think we won 7-1. So I was like, you know what, going to the finals, like it's going to be a war. What needs to be done? It's for me to be well prepared, so that that they've been working along for it. Because when I got here, it's a new established team. They haven't won anything ever since they started. So this cup means a lot to them. So let's just go break legs there and see what's going to happen at the end of the day. So my fellow Rafael, we come out victorious. So I was so another title, a big one, which is something else for Bona as a team. So next level around going forward. So okay,
Rhoda, for you, did you expect to do as well as you did, asks Lethabo, in your first season of the SAFJA National Women's League?
To be honest with you, for me it was just a matter of, okay, I'm back in the country and I need to revive, to get back my confidence. Let me see which team I can join. Then there was TT, then there was Sundowns, and then Fujin was like, come back home. You always have a space. I said, okay, it's fine, I'll join the team. And then going there, it was just a matter of, let me use my experience and help the team win. So which I believe it happens. In play of the season, I wasn't expecting it, because already I got there. They've already played 5, if not 4 games. So it was just a matter of, okay, see where I can contribute. And then fortunately enough, I managed to become the top scorer of the National League and also help the team to win the league. So yeah, we did it as a team.
It's quiet now about the second season of the National Women's League. How important all the details around when, where, all these things, especially given the overseas moves we've seen from players such as yourself and for Banyana as well. How important is it that the second season happens and we get all the details?
I was thinking maybe it's best they start the season early in order for it, or in time. That thing as the champion, but Abaneka. Team leader not knowing how much they're going to get, first place, second place, and all that. So I believe if they start early, they will be able to organize it in time, so that the teams would know what is it that we pass. I think it's best. And even now they're saying women's league in Zanzibar, but then they're saying COSAFA is to play. But then how are the teams going to release their players? And how is the national team going to perform if players have been sitting at home doing nothing? When someone's leave for SAFJA to make it better for people, they need to start or let it begin now in order they can perform well when it comes to COSAFA. Unless they just want to say, go COSAFA, and then you'll see how you do it. We don't care COSAFA. Because players need to prepare and be able to know it.
As much as we are concerned about our health and COVID-19, so it's very crucial, especially for the players, because you can see with national team, the national league, it's not a professional league, whereby it's going to be hard for players to get tested. So, but I think also crucial for the league to check. CAF has cancelled the 2020 CAF, and also next year there's no CAF for women's. It's only the CAF league. So I think it's something that needs to be dealt with now, and make sure that the players are now starting to train, and now the teams are starting to play, so that, because if you check, we're saying Sundowns, they're going to compete in the CAF league. How it's done in January, when are they going to prepare? How are they going to prepare? Because I also they need game time in a way that it's hard, especially after some more months without playing. Because I saw myself when I came this side, I was struggling. It's difficult. It's not easy. Been 6-7 without playing, and then people will expect us to perform in a way that they want us to perform. It's not that. It will also help the players that are preparing to play in the CAF League and also preparing for the national team. Because if you check now, if we're not saying anything about the Women's League to resume, it's going to be also difficult for the national team come 2022 for them to qualify and also to participate in the CAF and also wanting to qualify for the World Cup. Yes, I know that we have more than 11 players playing abroad, but it's not players. We should also consider the local ones so that we can grow, the team can grow, the national team can grow. We can't only focus on the overseas-based players. Yes, she said about the COSAFA. It was announced that maybe by October COSAFA might start, but what are you doing about it? Are you just expecting the players to come to camp and play without any maybe training and stuff like that with the team? So I think they should also consider the women's football. It doesn't have to be like, okay, we just ask a favor that no one's saying anything about the league, when will the league resume? It's like it's speculation all over. Okay, it might resume in January, it might resume in February. We're not even sure what's happening. So I think the sooner the league resume, the better.
Okay, ladies, I think that's it. Thank you so much. Lethabo, our technology meta, so she can't even talk, but she has been recording this. We can't hear her, and I think that's it. Busisiwe is also. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I'd like to say something. Actually, that question was directed to me and you, but I'm really happy that both Rhoda and Lebo responded to the question. I was hoping that the hype around the SAFT could some kind of pressure maybe on the mother body to say, oh, now we have to start thinking about planning, the next, for a couple of weeks now, coaches have been approaching me and asking me if I've heard anything, if we are having the second season of the SAFJA National League. And honestly, it is really disappointing that now it's what the league was played in March. Sundowns still don't have their trophy. Sundowns still don't have their prize money. The teams that played in the last round of money, for that round, owners and coaches had to deep into their pockets again, which is quite disappointing that we are saying we are going towards making women's football professional as possible. So I don't know. I was really hoping that maybe the SAFJA National Women's League would be like that one step that will lead us to a professional league. But it's really disheartening that women's football is still not been given the priority it deserves. Hopefully in the next few weeks we'll know when or whether or not the new season will resume, or we'll also know when Sundowns will receive their teams, when they will receive the prize money for the season as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think we've said a mouthful, and we've got a last message here from Lethabo. Says, thank you so much, guys, and thank you so much for understanding during my technological fiasco, she says. Ladies, thank you. Lebo, Rhoda, thank you so much. Thank you.